Welcome to Charts Today. It's Wednesday, the 17th of June, and I start with this chart of SpaceX. A really big candle on the first day, closing near the top on this daily candle, and then yesterday, the first full day of trading. And interestingly, we just show here that we opened at this level, we went all the way up here, and then we closed back where we started. Now, of course, that's the daily chart. If we go to the 60-minute chart, we get a little bit more information, and we can see we can get that feeling of where the resistance levels are. 225 was really the peak, and then we can just keep going. So we can go to a 10-minute chart. We can see here again really starting to fall away, and then the 1-minute chart. And this is the place where you'll get the price targets. And really interesting to see yesterday that having had that big dramatic rise, and if I just show all the targets, we can just take them all on the chart. We had upside targets that were exceeded. We gapped up in the open. That's the euphoria. 225 is clearly now just a level of resistance. There was also further resistance at 218, but we've seen, and then we found support at 195. So it's going to be really interesting today just to keep watching these price targets. But the reality is, this is going to be an evolving situation, and we will get more and more data as we go. So starting with where we are in the markets, really interesting to see that we've got crude oil really pulling back. We said in our energy report out to clients this morning, 78 is the level for Brent crude, and WTI, the level here is 75. So we can see we've got downside targets there. Really significant that we're just testing that 75 level, and we have said today expect to see those levels being challenged, but probably just holding for the day. Even though if we look at the 60-minute chart, we do have downside targets for crude. We do feel that this 75 level is going to be a psychologically important level. So we've got neutral. If we go through 75 for an hour or two and we hold below that level, then then we would be bearish. But for the moment, that's the picture. And in fact, looking at the whole energy mix, we were more bearish today on TTF. There's the 1-minute targets, as European gas price, and we can see we've still got downside targets here. The levels to hold here are less clear. So it's falling energy prices is what we're seeing, which of course is helpful to the markets. Looking at to most other financial products, looking at the dollar, we've got this long sideways consolidation phase. That's the short-term chart here, just really waiting. We're more than a year now going sideways. Can we break higher or lower? Japanese yen's been interesting. We had interest rates rise yesterday from the Bank of Japan to 1%, the highest level in decades, and we are seeing that just helping hold the Japanese yen at bay. It was widely expected, of course, that they would raise rates, and we are seeing evidence of sort of a lower low. These are the intervention hours that's showing up in the chart, but really quite key there as well. Sterling, we're waiting to see which way we break. We do have on the daily chart targets in either direction, so no clarity there. If we look at Bitcoin, continues to look weak on the daily and the 60-minute. We've got new downside targets kicking in just below the cloud, so that's quite key as well. Looking at the Nasdaq, first of all, this is the daily chart, the 60-minute chart, failing to make a new high, which is a bit of a worry. And we look at the daily chart, we do have big upside targets there, but just right now we want to see the Nasdaq making a new high. By the way, I covered this morning in TradingView, so you can watch my market analysis there. and just follow me at David_Linton. And I did do quite a bit of Nasdaq analysis. Looking at the futures, we're up slightly on the S&P future, and the Nasdaq E-mini future is higher, but not yet making new highs and a lack of targets. So just a little bit of a concern there. Looking at other markets, the UK is down slightly, and this market's certainly not looking anywhere near as good as the US markets. Haven't made a high since March. The DAX in Germany, similar. If we look at the cash market, down 0.3%, just a really long sideways move there. Japan, interestingly, have been nudging new highs. And if we look at the Sensex in India, this has been pretty weak as well. And the Aussie market, we are seeing waiting to see which way we break there. We have got some quite good targets there on the 60-minute chart, but looking at the longer term, we can see that's just a bit of a failure. Sugar, we've talked about each day. That has been pretty bearish, waiting to see if we activate this downside target. The 60-minute chart looking pretty grim, downside targets there. And if we go to gold, we are seeing here that we've got downside target nearly met, found support at 4,000. On the 60-minute chart, not so clear with targets, but when we look to silver, we do see we have got more targets there, so that is a little bit better. Ultimately, we've talked about SpaceX to start with, but we can see quite a mixed picture amongst the tech stocks. SpaceX actually passed Amazon yesterday to be more valuable, which is quite incredible. We are seeing Microsoft down another 1.5%, and actually Nvidia struggling as well, down 2%. So we are just seeing some short-term weakness creeping in, and even Tesla was down 1.5%. Looking at the Dow 30 this morning, we've seen that the Dow is actually making new highs. So that is actually bucking the trend here. This is the Dow future, has made new highs, so it's looking stronger than the Nasdaq and the S&P, which means that we will find strength in the Dow 30. We've mentioned before, it's financials at the moment. We're seeing JP Morgan got a good upside target there. Visa, we've mentioned its financials. Visa, we've got American Express up 1.6%. New upside target there and breaking above the cloud. Caterpillar has been a very strong performer as well, so that's really quite key, and we're seeing tech not performing as strongly, which is why the Dow is looking better. If we look at the FTSE just quickly, we've seen mostly BP and Shell have been lower. That's BT starting to look negative, passing a downside target and moving below the cloud. We look at BP here, we can see the falling oil prices having an impact. No great surprises there. On the upside, we've got Endeavour Mining up 4% this morning. Up 1.5% this morning, but still below the cloud, having nearly met a downside target. Fresnillo looking better, but again, downside targets there. BAE Systems, the UK's Defence Review having an impact there, and Glencore, we can see here as well, we've got moves to the upside. And financials in the UK, Barclays also just looking stronger. But the key thing today is going to be watching that Nasdaq, and of course, all eyes on SpaceX. That's now going to have an impact on the Nasdaq. We are up about 0.75% on the future at the moment, but if you look at the 60-minute chart, we really do need to make a new high. That's it for today. Have a great day. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.